have it for long.
He is over the top. It's incredible.
There were more tigers domesticated in the United States than anywhere else in the world.
More in Texas, I think.
Yeah, in Texas alone. Like, oh boy, Nick Cage, we love you here on FN Movie Podcast. Welcome.
All right.
We're just transitioning on in. A nice, small, calm voice. This is our
the tone
EDMR
of the
readings or whatever like that. Yeah.
That's your Tiger Fact for the day.
Tiger Facts. Welcome to the Tiger Facts Podcast. We are not just milking the success of, what was that?
Tiger King.
Tiger King, there we go. Yeah, we're not just milking the success of that months late because we do everything late. Make sure to check out our Last of Us 2 review on this channel. Dumpy recently put his
Dumpy just reviewed it.
So it must be still relevant, right, guys? Let us know in the comments below if Nathan dropped that video way later than he needed to. Guys, welcome to the 96th episode, pretending to be the 100th episode of this podcast. What are we talking about today?
Nightcrawler!
Nightcrawler!
That's about the X-Men, right?
Yes.
The guy that, like...
that teleports?
The blue thing.
The German guy?
So we will get into that.
Why?
Yeah?
Because it definitely set a different expectation for my movie on this.
What?
Yeah, so, I mean, they had...
You thought this was an X-Men movie?
They had Logan, and then, my natural progression thought was, they must have done a Nightcrawler movie at some point.
This came out before Logan.
Right, this came out before, so I was like, this must have not been very good, and it must have went under the radar, so it must have been about Nightcrawler, the X-Men who teleports around,
I'd watch a movie about him.
I'm really thinking this is a really bad joke right now.
Nope, so let's get into it, guys. Let's do the plot. Nathan.
So Jake Gyllenhaal as X-Men's Nightcrawler is what you thought you were going to be watching?
Did nobody else think that was in that movie?
Venom did the same
Venom.
thing.
They had Logan. I was just like, maybe they had a standalone Nightcrawler. Shit, they were putting out fucking Gambit. And then
Deadpool.
Deadpool.
Well,
they talked about Gambit for a long time.
This is one of your trusted movie critics right here, fans and subscribers. Just letting you know.
I'm kidding. I knew it wasn't.
I just asked if it was a joke, and now you're a liar. You're a liar, and
much to Dylan's disappointment, this is actually a movie about a paparazzi that basically is trying to force his way onto the scenes of horrible crimes and accidents to take very dark photos of just people being murdered, people in a lot of pain, so that he can turn a profit. And that's pretty much the whole through line of this movie.
Selling it to the news channels, does some unethical work.
And just escalating. He's learning the whole time, he's learning the trade, and then he finally gets it, and he keeps getting worse, and then finally gets to that pinnacle of a climax.
We can all agree that Jake Gyllenhaal in this movie is probably on the spectrum a little bit.
Oh, he's a sociopath.
Yes.
100%.
I would say both of those things.
Dude is sent at this point.
This is a very good example of sociopathic behavior, I would think.
Oh, I couldn't think of
because
anything.
It's just analyzing a system and mastering it without any scruples about any moral reservations whatsoever.
Very black and white thinking, no human emotion attached into it. That's like a confusing, wasted component to him. At any point during discussions, you can tell he's like, no, rationally, that wouldn't make any sense. Why would you have emotions involved in that?
And I love that, he puts everything, in this calculus. Every decision he makes, especially, when you see him going to dinner with that woman, he's like, I want to have sex with you, and you want something, I want something, and she's like, this is messed up, this conversation we're having, and he's like, no, just put it black and white, I want to have sex with you, you want pictures from me, let's meet and bang, and just the whole time, and even at the end, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but when he's talking with his partner, Roz or whatever, and he's like, you're giving me no negotiating power, and that's his tipping point is you're not in my calculus, so something's got to happen.
Yep.
This movie, from the very beginning, you can just tell that this guy is going to make a buck no matter what. He doesn't care how he does it. He doesn't care what kind of laws he breaks. He is going to make some money doing things. And he very quickly turns into this paparazzi, like you had said, because he notices that a wreck that just happened, this media van pulls over, gets just all the content, and very quickly makes a buck off of it. So then he just leans so far in, he gets him a camera, then he, like you said, he just gets better and better, more equipment, better car, better partner, which is wild to think, because this kind of guy that has that much passion that quickly could have stumbled into anything. He could have stumbled into stock market and done things legally.
Been a fantastic stockbroker.
Then he could have been just a legal normal.
He could have seen someone walking a dog and been like, I bet they made $10 for that. I'm going to walk 20 dogs.
Yeah.
And like he said, become a functioning member of society versus a paparazzi crime scene investigator.
So I'll say like my being the one who's finally watched this movie for the first time, you fucking animals.
I think I've seen it 3 times now.
Yeah, all of you guys have probably
I've
like,
seen it a ton.
You guys have done just victory laps on this movie in the meantime. Is that like this for me is one of these like great examples of a genre, right? This is prime thriller, right? It starts off, it's not trying to be horror, and which is my favorite. Like whenever it's done right, like those genres can mix pretty well. But it's so definingly different that says here's why horror, thriller, and thriller should be its own category for this reason, right? There's nothing like sure like kind of dark and arguably horrific things gonna happen with like the gun shooting and like all that part, but they don't really show in too much in detail. They just show aftermath. But this one is just seeing the character slowly and progressively get more extreme with his stuff and more. It's not even unhinged. It's being more concise. If anything, it's super hinged for him. Like he's just being very well like honed in. But you start to see just how like of a kind of a monster the guy is on paper, though. And I like that. I like that it didn't try to be exceptionally over the top, and that this is grounded in human psyche, just being more concise and confined with it. But I had a funny laugh, and this is a movie I didn't expect to have a laugh from.
Oh, there are a few chuckle moments.
Yeah,
in
there's
this.
whenever he's
Definitely.
just sitting there and he does the little bun, and then he's just biking around the pawn shop like. He says, "Oh yeah, this is," and I just love how much he knows.
33 speeds.
Yes, knows about everything, right? Like he steals a bike and he's just like, "Yep, this bike's speed does this."
But you don't
and
even see him
freaking that.
steal it, which I think is so funny because
Right.
he's just like standing outside, sees that person on a bike for like a second, and then it like cuts to him in the pawn shop just riding it around. You're like, how did he get that? Oh, like they showed it just a second ago.
Right. But I like that the fact that them showing that he didn't show like the action of him stealing and just cutting it like gives that expertise, right? It tells the story. I'm already kind of somewhat spoiling my answer for Fat Thin Perfectly Thin, but it's one of those ones that just does not waste the time to explain whenever it knows the scene, but the next scene will explain everything you need to know about it, right? Like the moments where he's sitting there and he's walking up to the competitor's van and stuff like that, and sure, it does actually show him kind of getting underneath it for a minute, but they don't spend a lot of time figuring that out, and they're just like, yeah, he's there, he's gone. Of course he's going to do that because he's escalating.
Yeah, I see what you mean because like it has that scene just where like he's at the van with no one around and you're like he's doing something screwy with it because he was being a dick to him earlier like work for one of my vans, and then Jake Gyllenhaal's like no, right, and then he keeps messing with him and finally he's like, all right, I guess I'm just gonna kill a bitch.
And I like that's like the teetering line, right? Like it's just like when's he? Because at first, like I had to think backwards, and I'm like, wait, did he kill that security guard at the beginning of the movie? No, it's just like, or did he just wrestle him and then take the watch off him and then peace out? I'm
Because he had a watch.
still not sure.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm not either.
I'm like, he hasn't killed anybody thus far, and like not with his bare hands. At first, I was like, oh, he's a killer. But then as the movie goes on, he doesn't go like kill anybody really with his own hands or does anything like that. Like it's always methodical. I'm just gonna put this person in a position where they'll just do it themselves. And then I'm like, wait a minute. What happened to that security guard? Did he? And I'm like, if he just runs away, did he steal a gun too? Surely that guy had a gun. I have more questions than answers from the beginning of this movie. But then we get into like the tail end and stuff like that. And I want to leap in right to the part where it just felt like the movie's just like we've been hovering and risking from like 5 to 6 to 7, and then it's like, and we're gonna go to 9 and stay on 9 for a while. And that's whenever you hear, oh, we got here before the police. Everything from that line onwards is just like, oh shit.
The house,
Yeah.
like the rich person
He
house.
gets to the house.
Yeah.
You see him going through and just filming essentially like snuff footage at this point.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just like, and I'm like, he can make a really great like profit of selling that to like some weird dark like websites and stuff like that for people who are.
But he
into
goes
that
to the
shit.
news.
Yeah, and he goes. I mean, you could double dip. Objectively, it's probably
Yeah.
already on the news. Like, here's some more uncensored version. Here's a dark web stuff, but let's not get into profit. Like, he'll figure it out on his own. I'm sure he'll get there. But yeah, he goes around doing a little laps, and then like up to the baby crib, or the crib, and then it's like, oh, and there's nothing there, and I'm just like, you gonna puss out now? I was almost there, guys. What are we doing?
Give us the dead baby.
Right. Dead baby. Where is it? And they just kept showing dead humans that are adults.
Boring.
Yawn.
I do love the little plot where he goes in and he's just like, all right, now he's starting to construct like how he can like make the narrative, right? He's like, all right, well, I could turn him in now, or I could create a perfect situation to record another video, which is gonna be super sweet, and I'm gonna play that one out.
But you also skipped over a fact when he's in that house walking around, one of the guys was still alive.
Oh yeah.
Like they were like coughing and he's just like taking the video with no like even though it's not telling you, like, he's not gonna help him. He's not doing anything.
If anything, he was probably gonna like finish the job. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
But maybe like off camera.
Right, but I'm kind of glad that he doesn't, though. I'm glad that it doesn't. It puts that little wall there that says we're not gonna push him this far, like, because that's extra.
I wouldn't believe that he would do it unless he thought he could make a profit off of it.
Right, like if suddenly he could validate.
Like, if there was no reason to do it,
Right.
then
He's definitely not
like,
going to.
when
He's
he-
very smart.
When he moves the body at the scene for better lighting and scenery and stuff, I was just like, oh my god, that's so bad. Like, you don't do that.
It's still a live body.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, even on that moment, like, I love just how fucking creepy when it is. Anytime you see the bodies, like, of like either Riz or the competition guy, or even in that scene where he's in the house, where it shows the victim perspective looking up at him, and it's just like, oh, that's jarring. But that's really good. It's good for this movie, but it's jarring. Like,
and everything was slimy. You know, like everything that you saw in this movie was very gritty and filthy, and you didn't feel good about basically any ounce of this movie. Every shot was like, someone's doing something wrong here, and they're making money off of it.
It's kind of the feeling that my little brother, I always try to get him to watch It's Always Sunny, and he's like, I just get this feeling of just like grossness every time I watch it, which apparently I'm a fan of. But yeah, I agree. It pulls you in because like it is like the gritty, like gross side of the news that like I never knew existed prior to this movie.
That Nightcrawler is like the term for the job and not of the X-Men that should have been starring in this film. And but we mentioned like the slimy gritty stuff, and I like that even his character, like at the beginning of the film, it's something that I thought about after the fact, and as we're kind of like talking about it, I was like, he looks a little bit more, not like disheveled, but like a little bit dirtier, and like his hair's a little more greasier and stuff. But as the movie goes on, like he's cleaning, not a lot, but he's still looking a little bit cleaner. And even by the end of the film, like he's got the two vans, and he looks like he's been a little bit dressed up in that time, and he says, oh, you know, trust me, I won't tell you to do anything that I wouldn't do personally. And I'm just like, oh my god,
that's a very low bar.
Yeah, and I'm like,
but that also speaks for his priorities. Whereas from the very, very, very beginning, he wanted to lean into all of the equipment first. He didn't even pay his employee. He didn't care about his car.
Internships.
yeah.
Then, like, one of my favorite scenes was the transition scene where they go from that old Corolla that he was just bumping around in to that SRT, like Hellcat or whatever that Dodge was.
I do miss the Corolla. I won't mind.
Yeah, well, the Challenger or Charger, I think it was a Challenger.
Challenger.
It was beautiful, and like that shot was perfect. And then you could tell that he had actually progressed and gotten more and more efficient with his spending and, you know, everything. I don't think Riz was getting paid any more money.
No, he's getting paid the same.
Which, can we touch on his
like
character
$30
too?
a night.
Where at the very beginning, going into that job interview, he didn't have any like
He
faith
didn't know
that
what
he
was
was
going
gonna
on.
get. Yeah, but I think that Jake Gyllenhaal, being as smart as he was, saw that and was like, "This guy's not gonna care about money much. You know, this guy's not gonna care about promotions much. Like, I'm gonna hire him,
But just enough for me to be able to manipulate it, right?
and maybe kill him off if I need to."
Exactly, right? Like,
Maybe he didn't think that far ahead.
Yeah, I
but-
don't think he would have been calculating.
Yeah.
Killing.
I don't think he was
No.
either.
But
He
not
saw,
until
like,
he saw a
really
not
naive-
great member
yeah.
of society, and he said, "Well, that's probably going to be better than a good member of society."
yeah, we need somebody with desperation
Check.
that can do this job and that will stick around because they're desperate. And there's kind of like an undertone that you imagine that he's probably not necessarily a junkie, but he probably has a drug problem by like how he just looks in the eyes, and he's like, oh, I'll settle for $30 a day. And I'm like, the only people I've ever known that settle for $30 a day are people who just need drugs.
Or
Like,
shitheads.
yeah. I'm like, people who are like going out and they're like, all right, I need it for the next set. And then he's always tired and he's working these late night shifts. So I'm like, I like that the movie doesn't tell me though either. I'm like,
No.
I'm left to assume, but
It's
I'm
a very
like,
jumpy movie.
yeah.
It could be week from this point to this point, or it could be the next night. It could be a month. You know, you never really know.
Right, and I'm glad I don't lean on the trope of, I know I praise it for some movies and do it for others, but like the time lapse montage, right, where they're just sitting there and it's just walking on sunshine, you know, suddenly he's just making all the money and
The
he's doing all
computer
this stuff.
files that he's got, and
Right.
he just slowly builds in his catalog.
Really,
just
that's
all of the footage.
the defining time thing on it, but I like that we don't see him just doing a bunch of different little shots just for the sake of doing that. Like montages, when done right, can be really good. Like exposition switches to like future up, let's speed up the time. But whenever it's done wrong, it's just jarring. And it's just showing too much expo dump for no reason. But I know there was something else I wanted to talk about on this movie.
Well, I mean, somebody else could talk.
No, you guys have had all the time to talk about this movie for 9 months and never picked this fucking movie. Actually, I've got nothing. I can't think of anything else. I'll write off whatever you guys put in if something else comes up.
Nathan, you haven't said too much. Don't have anything as of yet?
Thank you, Nathan. You reminded me. The car chase on that last part.
Well, we're jumping around still. Like, so we're going
That's
from
fine.
we're going from the house and all that because like that was a
Before
big
that.
moment. Like, especially think about like when after he did that and he's presenting it to the news crew and like they're in the news crew and he's like, "How much did you pay for that?" And she's like, "We haven't talked about that yet." And like Jake Gyllenhaal's like, "Oh yeah, show me the money." Then they have that conversation. He's like, "This is not a negotiation. Like I have all the leverage. Like you need ratings. I've done the research. I know how badly you want this. You will meet all of my demands."
And if
Yeah.
not, there's another news crew
Yeah.
2 blocks
Yeah.
down the street that I can sell.
And he was talking about how like he knows that like he thinks that he's being generous already. That he's already done the back and forth in his head, which I honestly kind of think that he has.
Oh, totally.
Because he's such a cold and calculating person that he really did do that. And she's like, "Yeah, okay." And then like they have that, and then that's when I think after that is when they get to that car crash with he drags the body or whatever, and then we get to the climax, which Dylan was wanting to talk about.
Yeah, so like we're doing this car chase thing, and this is the only part of the movie that feels kind of extra to me. Like, while he is literally like on this cop's ass, as the cop is on like the two like
big
gangbanger
Tahoe.
dudes.
Oh wait, you skipped over the conversation when they're staking out the house first.
Oh, that's fine. I don't care about that.
That's super important.
It's not that important. It just sets up for Riz Ahmed dying.
Yeah, because like his assistant is like if
I want more money, and
Yeah.
then he's like, "All right, well, we're at a performance thing. Here's your raise. Say your number. 170, 75. I could have gotten more, couldn't I? Yeah. All right. Well, here's the job. Well, I want half of this reward.
Okay, he's really downplaying this, but like
Okay,
this
let's
is
go
when
do
this is when like Raz Ahmed, whatever his name is,
Riz
like
Ahmed.
sure, I'm gonna call him Raz, and he was like he's finally like kind of picking up on what Jake Gyllenhaal's doing a little bit more, and is like I think I finally got the balls to ask for something more, and he finally does, and then it's all fine, and then it's when he asks for that extra, when he's like I know how messed up what we're doing is. I want more money. And then he's like, this is not a negotiation. Jake Gyllenhaal's like, oh, well, all right, well, we're going to figure out something to do with you then. And he most certainly does later.
Yeah.
Yeah, that part's fine. But so the car chase, right? So they're
Missing, in the shootout in the restaurant?
Yeah, I mean, it escalated pretty quickly where, he was like, these cops probably aren't going to get here very soon. He has a gun.
Yeah.
Then-
And he throws
then
that
everything
on there so he can get
adds
the
up.
shot that he wants. And he puts his assistant out in danger to
Yeah.
get that better shot.
Yeah.
and that all makes sense. But I'm not talking about what makes sense.
goodness.
I'm talking about what bothered me. Because there's not a lot in this movie that does bother me. But this car chase does bother me. Where he is like bumper to bumper with the officer who's on that guy, and I'm like, all right, now has he? Now, not to say that his reckless driving hasn't been earned in this movie at this point.
Oh, he talks
mind you,
about all the time.
but fear. Do you know what that stands for? And then whatever smart thing he says in that one.
I have no idea. I didn't even catch that part. I just know that legality-wise, like, he would not get away with
No, I'm like,
no
chasing
way.
after this
he's been
truck.
bending the law pretty well within constraint, but I'm like, no, at this point he's a part of a high-speed chase, and I'm like, I don't think this lands even at, like, he doesn't get
yeah.
away from the scene without, like, definitely getting in a shit ton of trouble.
Oh yeah.
Like, actually caught in trouble, not in the, oh, I think you did this, I'm the detective. And he's like, prove it.
These cops have to hate him by this point anyway.
Oh, yeah, like,
Oh, that detective lady despises him.
I hate you and I want you to die. What's your negotiation offer? Like, bargain it away on that one. But yeah, that part where he's just so close in the entire time, I'm just like, I get that he's trying to get the footage, but put some distance, man. This is Hollywood extra, and that's the only part in the film.
Well, they got Bryan Singer in there to do like Fast and Furious style shots on that.
Right.
That was very fast paced, and obviously you had a red sports car. They had cars flipping left and right.
But I'm like, I don't watch Nightcrawler for the fucking Fast and Furious scenes, though, man. I
Yeah.
watch it for the creepy, disturbing person scenes.
I will counter it with this though. So I'm thinking like Ride Your Wave had that amazing movie up until the climax, and I remember I told you all how much I hated it, and it felt out of place. I will give you that, like like the car chase does feel kind of out of place with how like actiony it is and how it just doesn't feel like it needs to be there. But at the same time, like we do have the like the preface of we know how dangerous that he likes to drive. We know like his appetite for what he's wanting from like he's doing all this to get the payout.
Let's flip a few cars.
Yeah, and he's just like he's ready. I think like this is the point. Like he's ready to go all in, and he is willing to do all this.
I agree.
So
It
like that's
wouldn't
why I
be the
didn't
same
feel
movie
it didn't feel
without it.
too out of place to me because it didn't go on too long.
Yeah.
It was like maybe a minute and a half or two. But like some of the more action parts were like the car flips and stuff. I was like, all right,
Yeah.
calm
like,
it down a little.
I think like that part would have been solved for me if they just put some distance with him, right? Like if he's like hauling ass behind it, but not like in the actual like they're racing at that point. It's Mario Kart and fucking Baby Bowser's right here and fucking chump ass Mario's right here, and here's Peach coming up right on the tail and just fucking riding the wave on right behind them, and I'm just like, just 20 feet.
This
All I'm
movie, this
asking.
movie would have been boring without that car chase.
Oh,
just gonna say.
again, listen. Car chase is fine. How involved he
Yeah, I
is
get
in the chase is what bothers me.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I'm in for the car
20 feet,
scene.
man. 20 feet is all I ask. Like, just quit trying to be Fast and Furious in my
I mean, in
thriller.
a way, it's also his like dedication to trying to get the best shot he possibly can.
Yeah.
Like if he's willing to move bodies around and jump into murder scenes before the
Oh,
cops
yeah.
even get there.
But it doesn't make any sense. He could just teleport to the next rooftop and shoot from there.
Nathan like looked at you for half a second, like, is this bitch serious?
He could just keep teleporting.
No, Nathan was
around.
like, "Did I miss something?"
Yeah.
All right, next segment. Let's go.
So let's get into this.
Okay.
Yeah, it's weird he didn't use his powers. the
Right,
whole time.
I know.
It really would have made it so much easier.
All right, so we're gonna skip.
Fat, thin, perfectly X-Men,
So
guys.
we're gonna skip the assistant getting shot, Jake Gyllenhaal setting that up. We're gonna skip him going to the detective
You can
station.
talk about it in your fat. thing,
and
or
we're gonna
perfectly fit.
skip him getting away with everything at the end. All right.
Well, we don't need to talk about the whole movie press.
All right. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I realize that's what we were now.
No, I'm just liking this.
We're the effing partially movie podcast.
I mean, whatever. They know they got away. They watched the
Effing
movie.
the Good
otherwise-
Parts podcast.
The Good Parts
Yeah.
podcast.
I'm gonna go first. I
Wait.
think this movie was a little bit chunky. I think it was a little bit fat. So when you said earlier, Dylan, that this is like a really, really good genre of like a thriller, or a good example of the thriller genre, I'll agree to an extent because this movie, like, for it to do so many dark and like not good things, illegal things, it's a little bit slow. And I think that the slow parts are obviously the times when they are talking to the newscast, they're talking to the girl who wants all that footage, they're talking in the restaurant, they're doing all of these things, which
talkie.
which to me, like, it, then I have to sit there and think about, like, this cannot be legal. Whenever he, for instance, goes into that condo, that big nice house, like, why wouldn't the cops arrest him immediately? That's tampering with the crime scene. Like,
Yeah.
But then once I start thinking about it too much, I'm like, all right, I know what this movie is. I just have to understand. I have to, go along with it, and it's a good movie, and I still think it is. But I think that the slow points are the problems, and they spent way too much time in this movie in those, conference rooms inside the news studio. If I could have cut anything, it would have been probably half of those, and I think it would have been great. Because, like I said, the car scene was like the big finale. That was the big fireworks show. That was the awesome point where, the assistant dies. You see how much of an asshole he is if you didn't already know. The cops finally, kind of zone in on him a little bit, and he again just gets away. And he's not only that, but he starts his own little news crew, or not news crew, but footage crew.
Video production news.
Yeah, whatever it is. And I do like the final shot. The final shot's cool because he basically just gives them both one of these, and that's, I don't know, he has a crew, and the progression is still happening.
Right.
This movie can still continue. Not that I want a sequel.
And they're all interns too.
Yes,
Yeah.
not paying them a dime. Not paying them a
Not
single
paying them
penny.
Not a
anything.
penny.
But I assume it's because he has the reputation of getting all of this footage, and they
Yeah.
probably are trying to break into the
night
broadcasting
threshold.
world,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
God, that sounds
so
awful.
cool. Good for them. It's fat for me though.
Yeah, this movie's chubby, but it's weird. I'm trying to figure out where in places I would be cutting, and I'm having a hard time with it. But I know if I'm thinking runtime, this movie is like, I don't know,
It's 2 hours.
2 hours,
For
pretty
sure.
close on the dot, right? Like it's 1:57 or something like that, if I remember Netflix's thing.
Yep.
And this movie could definitely be not too much shorter. Like this is why I just say it's chubby. It's not fat. I would probably cut like 10 or 15 minutes. Like 1:45 feels very, very valid for this movie. But if you mention, Mason's points on saying the quiet times and stuff like that, I think, it probably somewhere is in there, because I think that they do a great job of painting the development of his like just sociopathic behaviors and the escalations of it, but also giving you the picture that everything is from his perspective, right? But I think about it and I'm like, they do it great, but maybe we could do it with less. Maybe they could explain it in less, because they do kind of do enough scenes where he just, in his dialogue alone, you're like, oh, this man does not think like other people think. Like, and he probably doesn't feel anything ever. Just the little moments like that. Yeah, but just the runtime being at 2 hours just doesn't feel right. This is
It's
like
funny.
1:45.
Yeah, it's an hour and 57 minutes.
Yeah,
You're right.
57.
Okay, so that means it's my turn. Okay,
Sure.
I didn't know if he was done. He just kind of like trailed off.
Yeah.
Okay, but this movie, for me, I have more of like a tolerance for like these like kind of slow burn talking movies. Like Hateful Eight's one of my favorites, and I totally understand why they don't really like it. But I'm just saying, like, I have more of a tolerance for like these kind of movies.
He likes
I
boring
like them.
movies. He likes boring movies.
Sure, you just don't have a big enough brain to understand something like Foxcatcher.
Sure, you're right. You keep saying it. It'll be more true.
But anyway, this is one of the most fit movies, in my opinion. I think that every scene goes, like, this is all a character study of Jake Gyllenhaal's character, and I think every single scene and almost shot go to serve that purpose. Like, everything that he does, I feel is justified through, like, the movie presenting it as such, and everything that they do, all the conversations go to further that fact. So, there's nothing I would want to cut from it. The only thing I would kind of cut is maybe just a little bit off the car crash. Oh, okay. Sorry, it was a side
No,
conversation.
you go ahead. You go ahead.
Nathan, you go ahead.
I agree. This is a fit movie, for all the same reasons that you said for the most part. I mean, it is, even the scenes in the newsroom, it's all about building that character. Really, it's all about just how to start your own business if you're a sociopath.
Yeah,
It's easy.
exactly.
It's
you
an
just find
entrepreneur-
something that
yeah.
you're passionate
It's an
about in the split
entrepreneurial
second.
case study. That's
Yeah.
all it is.
Beautiful way to put it, Nathan. Props to you.
I took it. Found the scene. So, the business class scene. Not that I would say I would cut it, but the tone is so very weird in that scene.
the business class.
So he's on the news set. He's talking with whoever the newscast lady is. I forget what her name is off the top of my head. Whatever. Blonde chick that he manipulates. So they're on there, and it's like early on in the movie, and he's sitting here, and they're walking. She's been very dismissive and quick talking with him the entire time. Here's business, get out. Here's business, get out. And then they're on the set, and then he's like, you know, I'm actually a pretty good learner. I spend all this time on computers. I actually took a business class this one time, and you know what they told me? They taught me this, this, and this. And they said, you need to have an idea before you ever make a business. And then when you do the business, you got to sit there and you got to figure out, well, is this something that you actually love? And I'm starting to think that I love that, like, this little rant, but it has this very optimistic, positive little, like, tone to it with, like, the background score. And I was watching that thinking, like, this is a weird tone for scene for the rest of this movie. And it sticks out. Now that you bring it up, I'm immediately like, oh, that one's weird. The business part, fair, but the tone was just weird with the music. I don't know, that's my big gripe.
I feel like a lot of that stuff's just to mess with you and make you feel like the world's kind of messed up.
Yeah.
That people like this can and do exist.
Can
and
manipulate
and succeed.
And they can thrive extremely well in
Yeah.
these positions with it, yeah.
Because that was his sales pitch to form a relationship with that woman. And without that, it wouldn't even be there, you know. You would not have a newscaster to give footage to. But yeah, I see what you mean.
So just before we get into scores, we got a new segment.
Well, no.
It's the same segment that we've been doing this season that we mostly have been keeping up with, but we do a question. So in this one, we do a question. I'm supposed to have a question. Mason, what was your question that you pitched to me just now?
I think this is a really good one, personally.
I was thinking of something kind of similar as you brought
Of
it up.
all of the Jake Gyllenhaal performances that we have reviewed, rank them 1 to 4.
Okay, wait. So Donnie Darko.
Yep.
1 to 5. 1 to 5,
I was
ladies
about
and
to say, are
gentlemen.
you going to forget Donnie Darko? Donnie
Whoops.
Darko.
Oh, shit, that changes
Nightcrawler.
everything.
Okay, let's count them out. Nightcrawler,
Darko.
Darko, Prisoners.
Brothers.
And
this.
And this.
And this. Unless there's another one that
No,
I'm also forgetting about.
Yeah, we counted Nightcrawlers twice.
Yeah, no.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, Brokeback.
Brokeback. Oh, son of
Yes, I forgot about that movie.
a... Okay, so make sure you're taking out like the
Another
movie.
Jake classic.
Make sure to take out the movie itself.
Yeah, just the
acting.
performances.
Just the performance, okay.
Performances.
So,
I am not ready for this.
we all right. So
somebody
let's
else go.
let's start on. I don't want to do 1 to 5 for like everybody individually. I think we all banter for this for a little bit. So number 5.
Oh, okay.
What do we
Okay.
think universally
Works
should
for
be?
me.
Brokeback.
Brokeback?
Well,
Brother?
he
I think
didn't act-
Brothers.
Brothers was his worst acting.
Yeah.
Brothers is
Like Brokeback wasn't a good movie.
Yeah,
his acting
but
was
his
fine.
acting in it
If we're looking
was
at
fine.
performance.
That's why I said that. That's why I said take the movie out of it.
Right.
I think though that what was the other guy?
I think Topher Grace and Brothers.
I don't think we're gonna be able to argue to this
Heath
guy.
Ledger.
I don't think so either.
I'll give
The brothers, man.
Brothers can be 5, but what was the other guy? The Dark Knight guy?
Heath Ledger.
Heath Ledger's
Yeah.
performance was better than Jake Gyllenhaal's in that movie. That's all I can really remember.
I'd probably give Heath Ledger, the better performance, but
Sure.
Jake Gyllenhaal wasn't bad in it by any means.
Yeah.
But, alright, so Brothers is...
Okay.
Topher Grace has some more, like, crazy drama
No,
beats
it was
in
Tobey
Brothers.
Maguire, not Topher Grace.
Whatever. It's all...
That 70 show versus
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Brokeback number 5.
Okay.
Number 4, I'm gonna pitch.
Wait, no, Brothers
number 5.
Oh, Brothers?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
then we put Brokeback on
I think,
four.
I think so.
Personally, I would almost put Prisoners number 4, even though that's one of my favorites.
No, sir.
But he doesn't really do much in that movie.
He's the detective. He
I
kinda
know
gets
what he
involved.
does in the movie. I own the freaking thing now. I love that movie.
I don't think he's watched this movie.
I just don't think. I just don't
You
think.
should
Like,
watch our review, bro.
Jake, like when I think of that movie, I 100% think of
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
Yes.
Like
Oh, sure.
like Jake Gyllenhaal just gets completely overshadowed. in that
Or
movie.
even, like, the creepy guy that they lock up.
Yeah,
with.
and
But for
Jake
my
Gyllenhaal,
reason-
Jake Gyllenhaal just plays more of the straight man the whole time. Like he doesn't really do too much in that.
Alright, so... where are we at for this
I
one?
adore that movie.
Arguably Prisoners and Brokeback in the fourth, third, if we're bantering between the two.
Yeah, I think 5 is definitely
Yeah.
Brothers. That's fine. I think 4th.
I'm voting Prisoners.
Okay, I'm gonna say Brokeback for 4 for
I feel
me.
like Brokeback, he does a lot. There's a lot of emotional range that he does in that
You
movie.
know, you guys haven't even pulled up the Donnie Darko thing. For me personally, I feel like in Donnie Darko, he is just a vessel for the audience
story.
and does not really have much of a character
But he's-
that I find that
But he's eye
interesting.
candy. He's eye candy for being
that
a
does
teenage.
not. That's not
you know,
acting.
So this is why I wanted to have this be a universal segment, because I knew there was going to be a lot of... I don't know. I think everything... All right, so it's interesting where I think number 1's going to land by, like, the theory of this. But I don't know. I feel he has a more decent range in Darko than maybe even... I'm kind of actually with Price on this one. Not that any of these performances are bad or that he's ever saw at home, but if we're comparing between it... Yeah, I mean, he really does kind of seem as a straight man. If you ask me, like, I had to think. I was like, he's in Prisoners, right? Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, not because he's bad. If I watched it, I know I'd be like, oh yeah, he's doing a good job. But it doesn't steal the show like the way Hugh Jackman's performance does.
He
or the Prisoner guys
crushes
does.
it.
So maybe it. Yeah.
When I
actually,
think of Prisoners, I just think of like that scene when he goes in there and all those fucking snakes are in those tubs. And he's like investigating all of that crap.
Yeah.
that's,
I can't help but to only think of him and Hugh Jackman when it comes to Prisoners.
Still, even when he's doing that snake thing, he's not really acting. He's just.
And remember that scene when the guy blows his head off inside that like in that containment room whenever he's like
I think
investigating.
this may be another emo bracket situation, Mason.
I just think that Jake Gyllenhaal
he kills
is
it in those
a
scenes. He does.
killer like part in that movie, more so than Terrence Howard, more so
definitely
than
more than
the
Terrence.
grandmother.
Dylan, you are definitely the tiebreaker on this number 4.
So
somehow.
all right, number 4 is between this and
Donnie Darko though,
and.
like,
All right, so number 4, is this between Brokeback and Prisoners, or is it between Donnie
Darko
and,
and
Prisoners?
Brokeback.
Or
I would say
Brokeback.
Donnie Darko and Prisoners between those two.
I would say Donnie Darko and Brokeback.
Nathan?
I just think you guys are way hyping up Brokeback Mountain's like his performance. Like it was good. It was just
Yeah,
it was a good
It was
split.
fine, but he was just like a singular. He was just a rocket shooting for Heath Ledger.
Right.
And that
Yeah,
was
it was.
right for that butt.
Pass.
All
All right.
right for that butt.
All right, here, I'll do it based on this, because he does good performances on both, and I'll just say at number 4, I'm going to put...
But there was that table scene.
Fuck, there was
Okay.
At number 4, I'll put Prisoners because of this, right? If I think performances on the movie, like if I think movie, I had to think for a second. I'm like, that is Jake Gyllenhaal. And Brokeback, it's unconditionally Jake Gyllenhaal off the top of my head. So I have to put that above Prisoners for that. Just quick takeaway on that one. But by number 3, would automatically go into Brokeback then, probably, you know, for me. I think
So
that,
Donnie Darko
I mean,
number
if,
2.
if
and then
it's
this
made
one's
it that
number
high, then okay.
yeah.
1. Yeah.
I mean, do we disagree with Donnie Darko or whatever we're at?
That's
for
actually
2?
kind of hard for me between Donnie Darko and Brokeback.
For 3 and 2.
I still think Donnie Darko's that like one of the quintessential Jake Gyllenhaal performances,
I mean,
even though
yeah.
he doesn't like show too much range in it, but like I think he does like a
That-
really.
That's my thing. That's
But
why I
his
feel
little
like
bit in the
he's
field,
just-
I'll say it's not so much about range. Right? Range says he can go from here to here, but on this one he goes to greater heights on the part that he's given for Donnie Darko compared to the stuff that he's given in Brokeback.
For Donnie Darko, like he just has this really like otherworldly, like ethereal kind of performance that he really does well, which you have to really act to hit that rather than just be like the straight man or something. So I'd probably go with Brokeback Mountain, number 3.
I'm gonna go
for
Brokeback
me
with number 3 as well.
That was my number 4. So that's
All right, but so for having this last one, all right. So 3 for that one. Then by default, we're probably all going to agree that Nightcrawler's performance is better than Donnie Darko's for what's doing, because it's arguably it's arguably very similar, but pushed way further. And
I think this is probably one of his best performances. Period.
Which is a shame we haven't reviewed Far From Home yet, because that Spider-Man movie, which he does teleport in. Wait a minute.
Yeah, I was watching this with someone, and she was like he scares me, like just looking at him. And I was like, I think he's still a snack. And she's like, nope, he is.
Greasy hair that
he like
nice
genuinely
and
scares
back.
me, and just like looking at him, like him not doing anything, because like his eyes are kind of like bugging out of his head the whole time. Like he cut a lot of weight. Like his cheekbones are like
they're defined. Yeah,
they're ridiculous. Like he just looks like a really seedy, like aggressive person.
So
from that,
of the top 5 of the 5 films we've done with Jake Gyllenhaal in this one,
man, we've done
5 Gyllenhaal.
There's about to be a 6 whenever mine comes around, just because
Really?
of this right here. Yeah,
I'm
I'm
okay.
gonna throw one at you.
Far From Home.
Far From Home.
You guys have never heard of this movie.
I love Far From Home.
I love Far From Home.
Yeah, everybody who's watched it.
Spider-Man.
It made lots of money before the All right, so anyway, let's scores, everybody. Nathan, lead the way, buddy.
I'll give this one an 8.5. It's really up there. Very solid performances. Dark material. Not exactly something that you want to see, but it's done so well that you just have to appreciate it.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and take it from there. So I have been talking about this movie since like the beginning of the podcast.
We know
because like I remember it was Kung Fu Panda 2. Because like I was talking about movies, like I was putting in the Snap Girl. I was like, I think I may do Nightcrawler. He watched it just like instantly when he got that. And I was like, like 2 hours later, I was like, nah, Kung Fu Panda 2. I love that movie. I love that panda.
It can't have been just 2 hours later.
It was pretty soon after. You got so upset. Them two were like, whatever. Nathan's like, I've already watched it.
The one time I'm proactive about watching these movies.
That's what set him off edge the rest of the series.
Oh, yeah.
And watches it the day before.
I have adored this movie since I've seen it for the first time. I love that, like I said earlier in my the last movie review for Kind of a Funny Story, like this movie sticks with its tone the whole time, never lets off of it, and it has a singular focus that it does not take its eye off the entire time. And it just carries it through, has that through line the entire time. Like there's a steady like climb of like the energy of the movie. I like that. I personally really like dark movies, and this one definitely fits the bill. Because I believe that Jake Gyllenhaal maybe would have gotten away with it, besides maybe the car chase thing, which I never really thought too much about prior to Dylan mentioning it. So close. But I do believe that he probably would have gotten away with it because he's such like a sociopathic person that he could have played all these people and got away with it. Are you all done with your side of
We're still waiting for a score.
I'm carrying it because the reason I gave it this score.
It's not a perfect button, so you can't hit it.
So I adore this movie, always have. So I am going to skate right on by that button and go with a 9.5.
Damn.
It doesn't.
So close.
I know, because like it just
the car chase.
I don't know what it is, but like there's just something that doesn't like carry me to a 10 with this movie. Like it's just like it's not to the film's discredit. It's just like there's just something about it that doesn't get me to a 10, which I think really needs to be there to hit that special number.
There's no dead babies.
That's it.
Yeah, that's
there should have been a baby in that crib.
Give me that dead baby.
Yeah, why was there a baby crib with no baby? Where was it?
Well, they may have been
it was just to
babysitting
like
or
build
something.
that
Tension.
But
I mean, for the movie, but for the narrative in that world,
but
where's the baby?
But he's asking like,
family's
why,
home.
Yeah, the family's home. Where's the
Where's
baby?
the baby?
Maybe
Did they
been like
kidnap the baby?
It may have been like being babysit somewhere or something
Maybe.
like that. Maybe baby.
Maybe baby. Want me to go?
So 9.5.
Yeah, you go ahead.
So I was kind of between a 7.5 and an 8. I think I'll go ahead and give it to an 8, just because like I know that there's a lot to this movie, and I know that the performance was really good. I kind of wish that they had given Riz a little bit more, because in the night of, he's really good. I think
I
he
love
was
that
in,
show.
He was in something else huge, but I just can't think
Venom.
of it. Was he in Venom?
He's in Venom.
Oh. Like,
That's not
They
the huge
didn't
thing,
give
but
him
yeah.
Like, what?
It's like
Oh
if-
yeah, of course, Venom.
Yeah, oh yeah, we all love that movie.
yeah, whatever.
What a class.
But you know,
Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
Tom Hardy.
You know I watched it in theaters.
percentage-wise of this movie, they gave Jake Gyllenhaal probably like 90%
Yeah.
Of the screen.
of the
Yeah.
entire screen, which is
The whole
fine.
time.
He earned it. He did great. It's good to have a little bit of a supporting cast, though. A little bit of a backbone, you know, just to lean on every so often.
You had the news lady person.
I really didn't like her that much. She was like getting played like a fiddle the entire time.
But she was desperate.
And
though.
well, she was desperate. Plus, she was doing a lot of illegal things. I don't see how that news.
Well, borderline
agency was-
illegal. They had the lawyer guy to defer to, and he's like,
lawyer
They-
lady.
They stormed in there, and she was like,
No,
"I have
there's
probable
that-
cause."
ethical
blah blah blah
guideline,
blah blah.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a third party dealer, and I bought this footage out. And I'm like, I don't think this would fly. Anyway, it's an 8.
I think that's
I
really
will
how
give
it
an 8.
works, though.
But there was like
probably is.
murders on the screen. They have to let their families know before that most of the time.
Well, that's why
like,
they blurred
there's-
it
That's why they blurred the face. That's when the lawyer lady came in
yeah.
with the house shot. They were like, "Can we show this? Like, blur the faces.
I
You're
just wonder-
good."
but I wonder too, if that happened here, would WBKO air any of that?
absolutely.
Oh no.
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 It definitely would not.
I don't think there's a single news network that
In the
would
country.
air that.
But in LA,
We're
where
talking
it's,
LA.
It's such a competitive atmosphere where
Yeah.
they're at. Though.
I don't
like,
think
there's
it's
so
that
many
competitive.
local news stations that they're having to compete with that
It
they
could be
have to do something
competitive,
crazy like
but
this.
there are like guidelines. There are thresholds that you just do not cross. And I'm not gonna kill this movie over. It's fine. It's still an 8, but some of those things kept me from going any higher. Just because I was like, good lord, this is just getting worse all the time.
I can see them doing that in liberal LA.
Liberal
I
LA.
see it. Yep.
The conservative part of LA would.
There
do
were
it,
guns
though.
involved.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that is true. On the
Anyways.
way here, I did see like a back on a guy's truck. It had like a big sticker. It was like guns, God, and Trump.
Yeah, I've seen a few of
Oh,
those
I
flags.
loved it. I thought that was
They
hilarious.
sell them on the side of the street.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, well, how about that score, Dylan?
Thank God the election happened the way it did. So, I mean, this movie's probably at least as good as it's kind of a funny story. So it's an 8.
All right.
Yeah, that's how I'd break it down.
You disgust me.
I mean, I hate that there's not one X-Men cameo in this whole movie.
Yeah.
There's nobody teleporting.
Hey, I mean, were you really paying attention? Maybe Nightcrawler was just
probably
teleporting
popped
around in the background.
No, he was in that car, and the one thing that was told Mason on the sidebar with this is I'm like, he could have zoomed. He just has a zoom. They talk about zoom on the camera the entire time. 20 feet. All I ask of it. 8. Good movie
8
though.
it is.
The
Great.
car chase is bringing it down that much for you?
No, it's not just a car chase. I feel like
Okay.
this is pretty adamantly at an 8 across the board, right? While it's a great example of a thriller and the character study and all that stuff is excellent, and Jake
Also-
Gyllenhaal's performance
You want to talk about a dark movie? I understand that 90% of the
Oh.
movie was filmed at
at
night.
night, yeah.
Fuck,
It is
was
literal dark.
Yeah.
It was so dark, which is fine. We have to do the end of month
Yep.
review.
Yep. So our movies for
Mason
this
getting
month
us going.
were
Space Trucker.
Space Truckers, Promare,
Promare.
Nightcrawler.
It's kind of a funny story.
It's kind of a funny story.
It's an okay sort of funny movie.
All right, let's.
If you're Nathan.
Start
Okay,
this
we
way.
got a month. I don't know if y'all noticed of quite a different.
Yeah, there's a
Well,
lot of
we all
diversity
went
in
back to our
movies.
roots.
Yeah.
I feel like this is basically everybody picking quintessentially what is their kind of
Yeah.
movie.
Abso-freaking
Oh,
Like,
anime?
you picked
Yeah.
an anime.
Oh, 100%.
I picked a weird 80s
Oh,
B
yeah.
movie.
Yeah. Teen drama.
Teen
over
drama
here.
from that end of the
And
table.
then
I
just
still
a
can't say
critically
what
acclaimed
A critically acclaimed
trailer.
great movie.
I
from
guess
Dylan.
critically acclaimed is my thing. Like,
All right, I will go first
Guess
and
that's
try
my thing.
to
Cool.
wrap this thing up. I think I'm gonna easily
Mason's ready.
go with Nightcrawler. No, I think I see where this is going. This is Nightcrawler for me.
Yeah.
If I can't pick my own, and I think the Nightcrawler is probably a better movie overall. But
so I can't pick Nightcrawler.
Nope.
But it's funny. I think I'd still pick It's Kind of a Funny Story, even if it was. I really enjoy that movie.
just trading picks left and right.
Yeah, kind of funny story. I like it.
This will be one of the only times where I'm not going to preface what I'm picking by saying I would pick my movie, but because I would pick Nightcrawler over my movie.
Okay,
I
good. Yeah.
love that movie. So even if mine was on the table, I would go with Nightcrawler. I love that movie.
Well, generally I wouldn't pick my own movie. So,
Nathan doesn't even pick his own movies, even
Yeah.
if he could.
I don't have to preface that. You know that. You know that. So yeah, I mean Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler was fantastic. It's kind of a funny story. Was good, but I really like Nightcrawler quite a bit more.
Yeah, it's a strong
Personally.
runner-up. Strong runner-up.
I think I'm nearly out of those movies now. Like, of ones that I would bring to the table,
No,
the
you
well
gotta
has
do.
run dry.
You've got to do. Gosh,
I
what
really
is it?
hope you are.
I've got other dramas, but not.
What's the one with Emma Watson in it? The teen drama with.
Oh, wait a second. may be
based
back
on the
in this.
book.
Noah?
No.
Can we do
Space
this
Cement.
off air?
No, it's gonna kill me.
We don't
otherwise.
need
Okay,
this.
well, speaking of the well running dry and picking...
Perks of being a wallflower.
Perks, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
And speaking of not having things to pull from, I am doing a blind pick. This movie came out about 2 years ago, starring the old Nick Cage, and it's called Mandy.
Well, you said blonde pick and you said Nicolas Cage, so my expectations are already
Floored.
Yeah.
Let him be
Way
low.
low.
Let him be low,
It's
and maybe
so
it'll
low.
come up.
Maybe.
I with all of Nathan's picks.
Yeah.
maybe. Oh, yeah, and it's a Nathan pick, so
I won't lie, I'm going in really disappointed because I wanted it to be Left Behind. I love that
No one
Christian's
loves
Children Junior
that
novel
movie.
book. I'm surprised you don't know about these books.
wait, is the Left Behind? Is that the one where like the aliens come and like?
No.
They're on a plane.
Left Behind is the one where the rapture happens and like half the world disappears. It's based off a Junior Christian novel. How do I know this and you don't know?
They were
this?
supposed to make like sequels and sequels
Yeah.
because it goes on. And
Yeah,
it
there's a
goes.
lot of books.
And they
But it
don't-
didn't make any money.
Yeah.
Might have made a couple bucks.
Surprisingly good book series.
Couple
Don't
bucks.
you- If you're for whatever reason in 7th grade have access to the Left Behind books and are watching this podcast,
And read at a 5th grade level.
yes, like I still do, make sure to go check out Left Behind. It's a surprisingly entertaining little book. Wormwood comes down and crashes. There's like people dying in these books. It's pretty fucking metal, actually.
Well, the airplane is like a vessel in that movie.
Yeah.
where,
What
like,
the heck
it's
are
not-
you all talking about?
I'm talking about the
just-
books.
it's
He's
just
talking about
a
the
book,
movie.
yeah.
This sounds wacky.
Yeah, look it up. Look it up. Anyway, check out our Left Behind podcast next week. Whenever, no, I'm kidding. We're checking out Mandy, featuring Nick
We're watching
Cage.
both.
It's surprisingly not Face Off or Anaconda, which was my
Or
rec-
Con Air.
Con Air.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Dude,
He's
that
great in
movie's
Con
so
Air,
fucking
but-
good.
It's too good. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Like, Nathan
We all
couldn't
know
possibly
that's
figure that.
good. I don't
all
need to pick that.
But Mandy.
That's the Dylan choice.
yeah, that's the critically
yeah.
acclaimed.
It's about
That's
to be
right.
Nick Cage month.
I would
No.
do it. God, let's not. No themes. No more themes. Not after last season. We're breaking away from the
Can we
themes.
do that though?
If you,
I mean,
here,
we could just
The 100th
do it.
episode. Imagine.
100th.
You could pick Con Air.
If you
And the
want to.
99th, I could pick something.
If you want to see us do Nick
National
Cage
treasure.
theme or just Con Air or any of that stuff, let us know in the comments below and maybe we'll do it because we just love being miserable while watching these movies. Otherwise, subscribe to the channel, and if you like Jake Gyllenhaal more and, what was it, Prisoners or,
Brokeback Brothers.
Yeah,
and
what's-
Danny Darko.
what's your 5 on that? And if you haven't seen all the movies, just tell us, how much you don't like Brothers. We always laugh at that. Anyway, guys, that's our show. Make sure to
Yeah.
tune in next week for Mandy. That's weird. That's a weird thing to say. Let me try that
Yeah.
again. For Mandy. And we'll see you then.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
You all realize that if we didn't like switch the movie picks around, Nathan would be getting the 100th movie pick.
I'd be okay with that too.
Yeah.
Listen, if
I
you
mean, it's
don't-
got to be one of us.
Stolen.
you don't pick Con Air for the 100. If we don't do a Nick Cage month, I
We
haven't
are not
got it for
doing
month?
Nick Cage.
I haven't got a theme yet. Everyone else has gotten their little theme ideas. That could be mine.